right. Well, thank you everyone for joining in this chilly day, this Friday. I was really thrown off by the weather because we just had 80 degrees not too long ago, and now it's down to 40, which is I can't believe it. So thank you all for joining us today, this Friday. For those of you who missed part one of this workshop, it was recorded and it is on our YouTube channel, so you can always visit our YouTube channel and watch the recordings. I also sent out a summary report of the recording and the links to all the materials that we covered from our first workshop. Okay, so I think I see. Oh, can you share the link to the YouTube channel? Sure, Maria. Sure. Let me do that real quick. Let me grab the link to our YouTube channel. Let's see if I can do that real quick. And as I'm doing that, I also will copy the link to the document in the chat. So here it is. Okay. So let's copy the channel and I'll put it in the chat. This is the link, the direct link to the YouTube channel. If you subscribe, you will automatically get notified when we upload these videos. So that's the link there on the chat. And the link to the Gen AI document is, let me post that as well. So you'll have the two links there. All right. So please excuse me. I will from time to time I will go into the chat and have to repaste those links because as new people join the room, those links will not be available to them. So I apologize for that. So I want to share my screen with you all so you can see I have a little bit of an agenda because when I talk about generative AI, I can really go on for a long time. And so I just want to watch myself because of the time that we have, the limited time that we have. And I also want to allow time at the end for us to talk and discuss like we did in the first part. Okay, let me make the screen a little bigger so that everyone can see. Is that okay? Can everyone see the screen okay? A thumbs up? Perfect. Okay. So this is the document that we were using for the first part. You can see that we covered a lot of what was here. But what I want to go over real quick is, oh, okay, so there's a little title with the logos. By the way, feel free to reach out to me. You know, if you have any questions or comments, my email address is jose.diaz944@citytech.cuny.edu. And so if you have if you have ideas or things that you want to share and talk, and maybe you have an idea for a workshop that you know that you've been thinking about, or if you want to host or lead a workshop, please reach out to me at that email at jose.diaz944@citytech.cuny.edu. The next slide is really a short agenda, but I know that we will have a lot to cover. I know there's a lot of questions, but the first thing I do want to talk about is the fall 2025 workshop. And let's see if I can find it over here. Yeah. So this is the workshop schedule that I have for fall 2025. It's broken down to several sections. The first section are the elevatED workshops. These are the ones that we've been doing every Friday. These are the ones I lead. And the Brightspace workshops, and those are led by Razul Hoke. Some of you may know him. And then the third section is the student workshops by Lizette Holapa. So if you have students who are struggling with Brightspace or have questions, you can always send them over to us. Let me share the link to this document so that you can also have that, because I'm always adding new workshops in here. So this is a living document. And by that, I mean a living document is a document that lives in the cloud and I can update it as we go forward. So you might see changes from now till then, till, tomorrow I might add something new. So let me share that in the chat as well. Okay, so that's the link to the workshop. So if you have some time later on, please feel free to go over the workshop and see, and from there you can register. Please also share your email again. Sure, I'll be happy to share my email one more time. Let me go back here. I think I'm the only person from City Tech or CUNY that has 3 digits at the end of my name. I'm not sure why, but I think there's a lot of Jose Diaz out there. There's like a John Smith of Spanish names. So it's Jose.Diaz944 at citytech.cuny.edu. All right, so with that, I want to open up with a little quick review of or a summary of what we covered in the first workshop. There were so many great questions, and we were running out of time at the end. And there was one great question, and I forget who it was, but it was a professor who had asked, should we continue to use Brightspace quizzes? And at the time, I was trying to answer that real quickly uh, and give a quick answer because we were running out of time. And so as I reviewed the video and I said to myself, oh, I wish I had spent a little more time and answered a little different. So this is my opportunity to re-answer that question. And a little bit of a backstory for those who were not there for the part one. We were talking about certain tools now that are easily available to our students. And so with these tools, we mentioned Google Homework Helper, we mentioned Cluely, and we were talking about how students are using these tools to answer questions on a quiz on Brightspace. And so right away I had answered that question too quick. And so my response I would say is, since these these new tools, these new AI tools are becoming ubiquitous, and any student can have access to them, and a lot of them run invisibly on the background, on the back end. Very hard for Brightspace and other LMSs to detect these tools. For those reasons, I would say I would only use multiple choice, Brightspace quizzes for low stakes assignments. So I kind of take back my answer from part one. And the reason why I say that is because it's really difficult for us and for our Brightspace support people and everyone else who works in the technology and ed tech. They know pretty much that at a certain point, it almost becomes impossible to prevent all students from using one of these tools to cheat. And for that reason, I would say that for big finals and midterms, the summative assessments, for those type of assessments, I would try to not use those Brightspace quizzes uh, for that reason. And so I kind of this is my opportunity to kind of change my answer on that. Okay, and there was a second part to the summary from part one. Someone had mentioned us also towards the end that we were just talking a lot about how to prevent students from cheating, right? We were kind of really the direction of the conversation really pretty much led to preventing, and not so much of reimagining the traditional assignments the way they are now currently. And so for that, and I wanted to provide some examples real quick. So what I did for today, I have 3 examples that I put together that I've been working, and they're not ready yet, but I felt like, let me share this because I'm excited about them. And so, and also not to make this like a presentation that's all about theoretical, pedagogy and this and that. I really want to show you something practical and something that I've been working on. And if it's something that interests you, I would be happy to share with you what I have so that you can use it and see if it works in your classroom. And the three examples that I'm going to share with you today, there are future workshops that I will go much more in detail as to how I created these assignments. So I'm not going to go too much into detail today because I want to leave some of that for future workshops. But I'm going to open up for questions for anyone who has any questions about how I created these assignments and um, and how can we or how can you take the assignment I'm going to show you and how can you customize it and adapt it to your classroom. Any questions before I move on to showing these three examples of assignments? Anyone has any questions about what I just talked about?
No, Jose, no questions for what you just talked about, but people want to access the ATOL workshops and it needs permission. So they're asking you to please provide the permission.
Sure, sure. I apologize. With CUNY, the issue that we have with CUNY is when we share these documents from OneDrive, they require us to be logged in with your CUNY credentials. But let me share the link without the CUNY credentials. The only caveat is that if I share with you without having to go through your CUNY credentials, that link will expire. But it's okay because I'm just going to share with you for now. So let me do that. I'll reshare the link. But just keep in mind, I think it's about 60 days, and then these links do expire, and that's for cybersecurity, right? Because these links, CUNY doesn't want these links to live forever, especially without logging in with your credentials. So let me do that. 1 second, please. And so I will do anyone can access without your CUNY credentials, and then I'll copy that link and let's put it in the chat. That should work. Please let me know if that doesn't work. Thank you for that.
Thank you, Jose.
Sure, sure. That's Pravana, right? I think.
Yes, yes, yes. I
I
I I I
reckon.
saw everybody's not on, not on the screen, so I said perhaps better not to be on the screen
Yes.
myself.
No, I recognize your voice. I knew who you were right away.
Yeah.
Okay, okay. Please let me know if that link doesn't work. But in the meantime, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to move ahead because we're already I'm a little bit into our presentation. So what I'm going to share now is three examples, and I will stop after the three examples and just to hear your thoughts of or your ideas of how can this assignment help you reimagine an assignment that you are currently working on. Okay, so the first assignment I created an agent, an AI agent. And it's okay if you don't know what an AI agent is now completely, but it's basically you can create an agent using any of AI tools such as Copilot, ChatGPT, and the many others as Grok, and there's many others, and Gemini is another one. We under CUNY are under the Microsoft platform ecosystem. And so with your CUNY login, you are able to log into Microsoft Copilot. And I have a workshop it's upcoming workshop that, I will guide you step by step by step, through every step so that you won't get stuck. I also have an in-person workshop in our G600 lab that you're welcome to come by if you're interested in playing around with agents. But what I did here is I created an agent and using Microsoft Copilot, and let me show it to you real quick. Okay, so here it is. And so I used a math course, for example, and this is Math 1275. And what I did here is I took the course content from this course, for example, the syllabus, the core the syllabus, the textbook, which is an OER. For those of you who don't know what an OER is, it's an open educational resource, which means that the students do not have to pay for the book. It's an OER, it's open to anyone to use. So that's what an OER means. So I took all the materials from the course and I fed it or injected into the agent. And in the agent, there's something called a knowledge base. So picture the knowledge base as a human brain. And I don't know if you remember, but when I was, in school, professors and teachers used to joke, if you don't study, you're not going to pass the test. And trust me, osmosis is not going to work. If you put the textbook under your pillow overnight, that information is not going to transfer over into your brain, and you're not going to pass. So I remember my teachers always telling me that that's not the way to learn. You're not going to learn from putting a textbook under your pillow, and in the morning you'll wake up and you have all the knowledge. But with agents, you can actually do that. That's the beauty of agents. So there's something called a knowledge base. And picture the knowledge base as a human brain. And so what you can do is with the knowledge base is you can feed the knowledge base all the information. You can train it. And in this case, what I did was I took all my course materials and I fed it into this agent. So let me show you how that looks like. And without going into great detail, I'm going to just show you how that looks like. So I'm going to go to this math tutor that I created. And over here at the top, there's a tab and it's called knowledge. And by the way, we're now in Copilot Studio. But for now, I'm going to skim through a lot of the details because I could spend the whole time, the whole hour well, less than an hour now that we have. But in the future upcoming workshop, I will go into more details. But I wanted to show you that I went to the knowledge base, which is right over here. And from here, these documents or links are the materials, the course materials from this specific course. So you can see I have a textbook, I have a final exam review, I have a course outline, and I have a workbook. I have a link to the website and other resources. So this is something that you can actually build yourself, right? And you can train your agent to just hone in on the resources that you provide. And you can cut it off from the internet so that it only focuses on the knowledge base or the resources that you have injected into the agent. What does that do for you? Well, number one, we've always hear the cons about AI is the major one is hallucinations, right? Because sometimes it doesn't have an answer to the question and it produces hallucinations. And I thought to myself, well, if I don't need any external resources from the internet, I can cut off access to the internet and just have it focus on the documents that I have uploaded into the knowledge base. That makes sense to everyone? Thumbs up? Makes it clear? Okay, good. So you're building someone, I hate to use an analogy of Frankenstein, but basically you're
So,
building.
I, excuse me, I have a question though.
Sure,
So,
sure.
yeah, so how do you create the agent? Because I went on Microsoft M265 265 Copilot. So first, how do you put the information there, and how do you create the agent? Because it seems that you have this thing already set up,
Mhm,
but the first step would be for us that, how do I, for example, take my syllabus and put it there,
mhm, mhm.
and then how do I, can you walk us through the steps?
Sure. I don't want to go again too much into details because we have two more other examples I do want to share, but I'll briefly kind of go through the steps because I will cover this detail by, much more clear into details in an upcoming workshop. But so what I did here is you can log in to your your CUNY Microsoft Copilot account,
Yes, I mean,
and right, you
mm-hmm,
you can go into my Copilot itself to create agents. You don't
mm-hmm,
go that way. So that's the first fork in the road that most people will get lost. And then so you have to go into a new tab and you can just type in Studio. Oh, I'll just put Copilot Studio for now because I forget the direct URL. But it's right here. So it's Microsoft Copilot Studio, right? So you just go in that way,
Mm-hmm.
sign in, and then you will go in with your CUNY credentials. So that's the first fork in the road. You won't go through Copilot. You have to go through Microsoft Copilot Studio. So that tricky ones. Yes, that's a great question.
Yeah, so that's the this is exactly what I did. I did the opposite. I just went to Microsoft and then click on create agent and was ready to.
Thank you for pointing that out. And I will cover that, when we go deep dive into how to do that. Let me get back. Where am I? Where am I? I have one too many tabs. Oh, so we were in here. Okay. Once you're in there, there's a button that says create, right? So that's how then you would then click create new agent, and they'll give you templates. They'll give you some nice templates that you can use. But I did mine from scratch. But let me go back because I want to show you a little more about this math tutor that I created. And I'm running out of time. But when you're creating an agent, you have to give it instructions, and right, so you have to give it a description. And so in this case, what I wanted to do was I wanted students to be supported. I wanted this assignment. So let me take one step back. My idea, and we ended part one with the idea of the agents themselves have to be assessments. I don't know if you all remember. That's how we ended part one. Remember, we ended by saying, I said it. I said my idea of where AI is taking us in education is that the assignments or the assessments themselves have to be the agents themselves have to be the assessment. And I think that's how we end it. So with that in mind, and that's where I believe we're going. And again, the future, it's hard to predict the future, as we were saying in part one. It's hard to predict what are the future workforce, what are the skills they're looking for. So we're preparing our students with not knowing how the future workforce is going to look like. And so it's almost like trying to win the lotto here because we don't know yet exactly where AI is taking us and what are some of these skills. So then with that in mind, I said to myself, okay, so if the agent itself is the assessment, then I have to create an agent for every assignment or create an agent that can produce many assignments. And then we talked a little bit about pedagogy before, right? In part one, we talked about some good assignments require scaffolding and how can we break up an assignment into several parts. And then we talked about feedback. We said to ourselves, the students need feedback. And that's what formative assessments are, right? We use formative assessments to flag which student didn't do the homework, who's not doing the reading. We red flag them, and then we talk to them individually, right? So that I wanted to incorporate as well in my agent. All right, so these are some of the pieces we talked about in part one. If you forgot, we can rewatch the video some other time. But the reason why I'm mentioning that is because I want you to pay close attention to my instructions to the agent. And this is what's going to take time when you're building your agent. It's going to take you some time because um, when you are searching for something on Google Chrome and you're not getting the results you want, maybe it's because the way you wrote the query, right? So when you write really good queries, you're going to get good responses. If you write bad queries, you're going to get not so good responses. So funny enough, when we talk about AI, generative AI, and that kind of thing, it comes back to your writing. So it's really coming back to humanities, right? We have to have the ability to write, articulate our thoughts correctly. If you don't know how to ask the question or you don't know how to present the instructions, the generative AI is not going to understand, and it needs step-by-step instructions. Okay, so with that said, my instructions for this agent was guide students through math problems by breaking them into manageable steps. Use clear, simple, and encouraging language throughout interactions. Do not provide the final answer to any problem. That was the toughest one. As I kept testing it and testing it, I said, oh, just give me the answer. And eventually we'll give up and give me the answer. Maybe it was fed up with me I kept asking it for the answer, and it must have got fed up with me and then just kept giving me the answer. So I had to really kept massaging my agent until I finally got this to work. Explain the logic and reasoning behind each step to foster understanding. Use examples or analogies when helpful, but avoid solving the problem directly. I don't want it to solve the answer for my students. I just wanted to go through the steps and guide them in the right direction for them to get the correct answer. Encourage students to attempt each step independently before moving on, right? So this is like a coach. I wanted to be a coach, right? Because we know in the education field that we work in, that every wrong answer is a teachable moment. Every wrong answer is a teachable moment, right? So if a student gets an answer wrong, I wanted to then take the student to maybe a video how to solve the problem, or explain why they got that answer wrong, and then kind of say, maybe try this, and then here's an example. And then the student then goes back and tries again, and then they get the answer correctly. If a student gets stuck, offer hints or ask guiding questions to help them think through the problem. When we get frustrated, we give up. We don't want our students to give up, right? So that's another very important instruction in our agent. And I think the one that glues it all together is the last one. Maintain a supportive, friendly, and confidence-building tone at all times. We as humans get frustrated very easily. You know, I told them 10 times, you know, this step is 1, step 2, step 3, right? We don't have much patience. So an agent can have a lot of patience, and so that can help the student, you know, continue to try, because once a student turns off the red lights, we talked about Mr. Miyagi and Daniel-san. We talked about Karate Kid. Remember, that was an example that I gave in part 1. We talked about how Daniel-san got frustrated because he kept doing Mr. Miyagi's chores, painting the house, cleaning the car, and doing everything, and never knew what he was learning. Frustration comes easy for students when they don't have the answer to the problem. The second thing I want to add to this real quick, because I'm running out of time, is that with my son, when I'm helping him do his math homework, sometimes you have to backward engineer the math problem, and you help them with the first one, and now they understand the steps. Now they can do it on their own, right? So this is an agent. This is an example of one agent that I wanted to share with you. Here's a second one. Sorry, any questions or comments before I move on to the second example?
So Jose, I mean, I have a lot of questions, but I want you to keep talking, so I don't want to interrupt. But one of the questions is, how do you apply this to a history course, for instance? But I don't want you to reply to me now. Just continue but this
No.
is an issue.
Oh, thank you, Pravana, because I did forget to say one thing. So it's an excellent question. Once I have the agent, where do I put the agent? Where do the students access the agent, right? And so with a history course, this agent can, with history courses, and I remember working at my previous institution, there was a lot of our history professors that I worked with at the previous institution, a lot of writing assignments, a lot of writing assignments. The next example is a writing assignment that I'm going to show you. And the writing assignment agent that I have created, the next one I'm going to show you, scaffolds the writing process. And for art history, I remember, I mean, I'm testing myself. I can remember because I've worked with so many art history courses, um, and the topics, right? We were looking at Baroque. We were looking at the many other topics. You can write a specific agent to a specific, assign a specific agent to a unique assignment, and and then in the instructions, put your key takeaways from that chapter, right? So in most modules, we're looking for some key takeaways, right? Some target areas of the material that the students should master, right? You can put those in the instructions, right? Because, and let me, but the one thing I did want to say real quick before I move on to number two is that once you build the agent, the students can access the agent through a link in your Brightspace assignment, right? So within, if you create the assignment using a Brightspace assignment, when you create the assignment itself, you're putting the description. Within the description, you can have a link. You could take them to the agent where then they have the conversation. Let me show you a conversation that I had. And then Shadi, we'll go to Shadi real quick after that. But here's an example of the assignment number two with my interaction with the agent. Because I also want to show you how students will interact with the agent. Okay, so here it is, number two.
So Jose, I'm sorry for
Sure.
keep interrupting you, but a colleague asked whether you could make your screen larger
Oh,
because it's
sure.
not very legible to us.
Oh, my apologies for that. Thank you for letting me know.
Sure.
Okay, is that a little better right here? Okay. This particular tool is Gemini. This is from Google. So this is a different one. The assignment that I showed you, the first example was on Copilot. A lot of these assignments and agents can be done using multiple tools. So I just wanted to show you that you can use more than one. And they all can do pretty much they're very pretty much similar what they all can do. They just have different names. Google calls them gems for agents, and then Copilot calls them agents. I think that's what they call them. But this assignment is a little similar to what Pravana was saying. In our history, we usually do a lot of, paper-based assignments, right? So I said, what if I can reimagine the traditional writing assignment? Usually they ask for 300, 500 words or something like that. Student does a research, they got to come back. Usually it's scaffolded, right? But they still have to write in one long piece of paper. So let me show you my experience. And when I went through this experience, I was pretty much blown away because I remember writing papers as a student, and I remember, you know, going through the research, reading all the books, sitting down and trying to figure it out. But this is a totally different way. And this is what blew me away was that in this case, uh, I had the agent start the assignment. Your first step. And right away, it opened up with dialogue. It said, I'm here to encourage, guide, and help you structure your thoughts. I will ask clarifying questions, suggest avenues for research, and provide feedback on your drafts. Think of me as your collaborative writing partner. To begin our journey, please submit your first response. And then it goes on to say, I'm excited to start working with you. Remember, every great accomplishment begins with a single step. So remember, that's one of the instructions, encouraging, keeping it nice, keeping it friendly and motivate the students. Let's make this a rewarding experience. Good luck. And then so for me to initiate the assignment, I had to write, hello, AI guide. I'm ready to start phase one. My first task is to define and provide clear examples of digital storytelling. So my topic for this subject or this assignment was on digital storytelling. I love those of you who know me, I'm a big fan of digital storytelling. And then it goes, fantastic. I appreciate your enthusiasm and readiness to begin. We're off to a great start. Phase one, the call to knowledge. So then it goes on to talk about what is phase one. In your own words, how would you define digital storytelling? What makes it distinct from traditional storytelling like a book or a campfire tale? try to think about the key elements involved: technology, media, interactivity, and distribution. Take your time and give me a comprehensive answer. I'm excited to read your thoughts. And then, by the way, this is me going to work on the train, on the LIRR, on my phone. And so I say, I got to get this done before I get to work. So I'm working on my phone, and then I type on my phone, and I, pardon my grammatical, because I'm on my phone, it's hard to type. Digital storytelling is the telling of stories through the lenses of multimedia. The stories can be told by different mediums, such as video, podcasting, song, poetry, or dance, etc. So I respond, and then it tells me that's an insightful start. You've correctly identified the core element, multimedia. And, it goes down a little more and talks about, but it also offers suggestions to make the definition even stronger and fully capture the essence of digital storytelling. Let's refine and expand on two key areas. And by the way, I'm doing this real quick, so I'm not, and so it's offering suggestions, refining the definition. What is digital? What's the digital component? What's the element of interactivity? Who's the audience? Now we're moving on to phase 1.2. Excuse me. So this is what we talked about, right? Scaffolding. How does using your current answer as a foundation expand your definition by addressing these 2 points? So now it's asking me questions. So these are guiding questions. Okay, so then it asks, how does the use of digital tools and platforms change the way stories are made and shared? And it asks the second question, can you give me 3 specific examples of digital storytelling that clearly demonstrate the use of multimedia in unique ways that engage an audience? The reason why I like this question is because it's leading towards authentic responses. We talked about authentic responses in part 1, remember? We don't want students to go into generative AI and have it generate those papers for us. So in this case, give me 3 examples of digital storytelling, and even from a personal perspective, from my own personal experience of digital storytelling. And so it continues to go on and guiding me through the phases, scaffolding, and I can share this with anyone who's interested. And then it goes through all the phases, and when it feels that it's ready, and I feel like I've done my research, I've done the research part of it, and I identified the key elements of what digital storytelling is. Here it was asking me what is the hero's journey? Very important framework for digital storytelling, for any type of storytelling, right? And then it continues and go on, right? So this part is a lot of the research that's happening, and then till we get to the bottom, and you see, this is a long process. This is a long scaffolded process that it's a conversation between yourself and the agent until it gets to the point where it gets you to fine tune all the key areas of your paper to then writing at the end, the final, 300, 500 page paper. Now, for me as an instructor, I would ask my students to click on the copy button and paste this and submit this as the assignment. Number 1, I am seeing the complete conversation, the process that's being involved from the student learning and to the final product of the paper. And then here they click copy the entire response. Then we move over to Brightspace, go to the assignment, and instead of attaching a Word doc, students attach the conversation and how they got to the paper. I'll pause here. I see Shadi and Shiraz has their hands up to ask questions.
Thank you, Jose, for your detailed information. I had a couple of questions about the agent for Math Tutor that you showed. If you could kindly go back to the agent.
Sure. I apologize, my throat a little itchy there.
No worries, no worries. So here I see under the instruction, you tell that guide the students through math problems. So when you say math problems, is this gonna, because I see you uploaded the course material, final exam for this agent. The agent is going to create its own problem for a student, or no, the agent is going to go through the textbook, through the exam, pick up the problem and just guide the student to the problem that already exists. So this is my first question.
Excellent question, Shadi. That's excellent. It will go into the workbook specifically, and while running this agent, when you get the responses, it also does the citation to where it got the information from. So a lot of the times it was letting me know that it was using the resources from the knowledge base. The second part to your question is yes. I created another agent, and I didn't plan to show it today, but another agent where I feed it my course materials, and then I have it generate a question bank. And so for those of us who are using quizzes in Brightspace, let's say multiple choice type questions for formative assessments, you can upload your material to the knowledge base, train it to your knowledge base, which is your course materials, or it could be the workbook or the textbook that already has examples of math problems. Then the agent will look at those resources from the knowledge base, and you can say, build me 100, I'm just making, this is just me making it up, but this is what I did. I said to my agent, build me 100 multiple choice questions on a specific module, because this workbook and the textbook covers the entire semester. So I would say focus on module 1, which is, this is trigonometry, by the way, and that type of math, algebra, trigonometry. So I can say, give me 100 questions on fractions and give it to me in a multiple choice multiple choice format. Now I want you to give it to me in the Brightspace format so that I can create a CSV file of over 100, 200, 300, however many questions in a CSV format. So now I can have 500 questions on fractions in a CSV file and do one upload of 500 questions in one shot. So that's the answer to your part 2. So I did a workshop already on that. That workshop you can find on our YouTube channel. And basically I think it was Copilot to then create over 100 questions, whatever it is, and then make it into a CSV file that I then upload to Brightspace and with the correct answer and the wrong answers already. And if you want feedback and tips, because you can do that in Brightspace. And then I upload that directly to Brightspace, create a question bank, and then what I did a little bit more advanced, which is then I can say randomize questions for each student. But it could be the same question, but with different numbers, so that students don't cheat. And that's what I did with that workshop. So yes to both of your, the answer is yes to the 2-part question.
Thank you so much. My last question is that all of our math classes are OER, and all of the bank of questions for our assessment and assignments, they are all created on my open math platform. And what we do, since we move to Brightspace, we just embed those links into Brightspace. Does it work for, let's say we create an agent to assist a student on the assignments and homework? Does it work with the Brightspace when those are a third party link that are embedded in my OpenMath? In Brightspace?
Yes, I could take the OERs that you have. I would take OERs, I would create an agent, feed that information to the agent, and then generate as many questions as you like, or levels of now look, you can say level of difficulty. I want, you can say really hard, medium, and what defines medium hard, that's for you to tell the agent. Then you can generate as many types of questions as you wanted to generate with multiple choice type or fill-ins and that type of thing. Then feed that CSV file into Brightspace. Therefore, you don't have to rely on these old question banks
I see.
that these Pearsons, McGraw-Hill, and those they offer you. So you're not static anymore. And then to re-emphasize my point on OERs, I think this will revolutionize OERs. I'm thinking like, oh my goodness, OERs are great because we save money. Students save the money, and we're not stuck to a publisher. And every semester there's a new edition, and they're just charging you like $300, $400, that kind of thing. An OER now connected to an AI agent, it's no longer static, it's dynamic. You know what I mean? That
Right.
information in that OER is now no longer static to what it is. And then if you attach that OER to Brightspace and an agent that can then every semester generate new problems for you, oh my gosh, now you're talking about, you don't have to worry that students are from the previous semester are sharing answers or questions, and then you're worried that they're looking at the same problems every semester.
Right. Thank you.
Or I think Ted or Shiraz has a question. Then I have to jump over to example number 3 because we have only 10 minutes.
Yeah, Jose, I'll be quick. Thank you very much for this beautiful session. Very informative. And I switched from cell phone to laptop. So could you post the document that you said that it is available for 60 days, at least? And secondly, I attended a couple of AI sessions, and most of them are on English or storytelling or maths. Do you know any AI system that would be ideal or good for biology? Because I'm a biology professor. Thank you, Jose. Thanks a lot.
Sure, Ted, and thank you for the kind words. I appreciate that. AI agent or AI tools are not specific to a subject matter. So when we're talking about knowledge base, that's your opportunity to train on that subject matter. So whether it's biology, whether it's math, whether it's, nursing, or, whatever the topic is, you can create an agent to your subject. So there is no limitation. It's again going back to what we said earlier, what you put into it, the resources you put into your knowledge base, it's what makes it how good it's going to learn, what you feed the brain. In this case, if you feed the brain vegetables, it's going to be a smart brain. If you feed the brain junk food, it's not going to be a very good knowledge base, right? And then here, another quick thing I didn't want to show you is I'm showing now Copilot Studio again. What I did here is I disabled web search. Right? So I disconnected it from the internet or the World Wide Web, right? Because I wanted only to focus on the brain that I created, this knowledge base, and just the course materials. So you have the ability to disconnect it from the internet so it doesn't get off track. I just wanted to focus on the materials that I created, right? The other part of your question is if I could provide the links. I will, for every workshop, I always send a summary along with all the links. So I will include all the links that we talked about today with all the documents and a link to the recording as well as a summary. So don't worry about getting those links. I will include it in the summary. And then before we move on, I think there was one more question or
Yes,
Okay.
it's Ted, and hi. And basically, I'll try to go quick so you can move on as well. But if I create, let's say, a writing tutor type of agent for my students, how do I connect it then to, and I give it specific instructions for the kind of feedback to offer the students, and how do I make sure that the students are using that tool with my instructions connected to the course?
Yeah, yeah. That was the biggest, Ted, thank you for the question. That to me was the biggest surprise. And that's when I was saying earlier when I was going through it and I said, I want to build it, but I also want to experience it as a student. And for me, when I went through the assignment myself, that's what really shocked me. It it went through the steps in a way that I was kind of blown away. Let me show it to you one more time because the last example, I still have one more example, but let me go back to where am I here? Yes. So I can't describe to you how I was really shocked at the experience because the the way it understood where I was struggling and it knew where I was doing really well. It understood really much where I was stuck and the feedback that it was giving me and I felt like I I wasn't anxious because I didn't so English is not my first language and for me during my school years I had a really tough time. I'm Spanish was my first language. I'm not born in this country and it took me a while. I think it was maybe till first grade I started grasping the language, and so I always struggled with writing and articulating my thoughts in paper, and so I kind of had this little bit of a trauma, when sometimes like especially with math, I also struggled with math as well. I was really uh, but what the only way I can describe it is, and I will share the link to this assignment for anyone who wants to give it a try on their own. And the prompt that I use so that you can build it yourself if you're interested. But the only way I can describe it, Ted, it was that I felt that a professor or for those students who go to the writing center, I felt I had a coach next to me the whole time. And I felt there was a safety net. And knowing that having that reassurance that that person wasn't gonna just let me fall and gave me the confidence to continue. And for every step of the scaffolding process, it followed my to your question, it followed exactly the way I had scaffolded my assignment. Because at the beginning it was really trying to me hone in on what is digital storytelling? Can you tell me your experiences with digital storytelling? Can you tell me who Joseph Campbell was? And I've been doing digital storytelling for a long time in my life, and I forgot about Joseph Campbell. He's his idea of the hero's journey comes. Joseph Campbell writes in his book, and I was like, oh my goodness. So I had all these moments, aha moments, as the agent was taking me through this guided tour. So not only was it helping me write the paper, it was also telling me where I was going wrong. And it was telling me, you have to include Joseph Campbell in this paper and without giving me the answers. So then I had to then in my phone open a new tab, and then I was like, oh my gosh, I know Joseph Campbell, but I had to look him up because I needed more information. So then I went on Chrome, Google Chrome, started researching Joseph Campbell. Then I had to come back to my agent to then write who Joseph Campbell was and how he put together this framework on the hero's journey. And I couldn't proceed. I couldn't proceed without knowing it would not let me because I need to know because he's a fundamental piece of this paper. And so that's the only way I can describe it. I just wish that when you have an opportunity, And if you do build an agent and you do build an assignment, and I'm calling these assignment agents. I don't know if that's gonna coin the term assignment agents, because I haven't heard anyone yet or any other workshops. Most of the workshops that I've attended are to just talk about the theoretical part about AI and ethical integrity and this and that. But I haven't seen anything yet where we actually reimagine an assignment and give practical examples of an agent becoming an assignment and cre and getting much more authentic assessment. That's the only way I can answer, Ted. I don't know if I answered your question, but you really have to go through the experience, because I was kind of really I felt like there was a teacher next to me, and what you hear a lot of instructional designers and educators talk about student-centered learning. I would say this was student-centered learning, because in this case, if we can have one teacher for every student, that's the ideal goal. Obviously, we cannot do that, but that's the closest I came to having one-on-one. That's the best I can explain. I'm sorry,
Yes,
Ted.
I understand. I just want to know, how do I make sure that it's connected to my course, that coach? How do I make sure my student that
Sure,
coach is what my students are using?
sure. It goes back to Ted. It goes back to, let me go back to the, where am I? Here. So it goes back to your knowledge base. You know, it's a similar question to I think the previous one, where you're building the brain, which is a knowledge base. This is your course material. You want, this is where the brain is. This is the information you want the agent to lean on. Nothing other than the information that you provide for it. You don't want it to go left, you don't want it to go right. I just want you to use the information I have ingested in your knowledge brain. So therefore, anytime I ask a student about a math problem, in this case, this is going back to the math AI tutor that I built in Copilot Studio. It's only going to stick to the information that I fed to the knowledge base. And you're going to see when it gives it a response, a lot of citations that point back to the documents that live in your knowledge base. Is that a better response?
Yes, I just don't know how to link the agent to my course.
Yes. So I will cover that in the other workshop, but basically the way that I added these into my knowledge base is you simply click add knowledge. And when you click add knowledge, you can just upload any type of document. It could
Mhm.
be a website, it could be, it could be anything. And then just it could be on your OneDrive, and you just link it through your OneDrive. And this is how through the analogy I was using of osmosis through the textbook if you put your textbook to your brain, kind of through osmosis, this is the process of transferring that knowledge into the knowledge base. So the agent now the agent's only using the information that you're providing.
I
Yes.
think course there. I don't mean to cut you up there, Ted, and I would like to also understand this. I think it's how you have all this set up, okay, for the student to use it. So now, how do I put it in Brightspace in my course for the
Right.
student to use it? How would my student get access to it? So
Sure.
I would
That's it.
also like to understand that. So we have all this, and you went through the process with us, but now,
Yes.
how do I transfer this to my course?
Sure. Yeah. So
Yes, thank you. That's exactly my question.
okay, I understood. Sorry, Ted, I didn't understand that. So now that we build our agent and we have a knowledge base, you just publish the agent by clicking. In this case, I'm in Copilot Studio. I will publish the agent, copy the link, go to Brightspace. In the assignment itself, when you're building the assignment in Brightspace, I'm sorry, I don't have Brightspace open right now, and I don't want to go through the authenticator. I apologize.
Yeah, it's okay.
I don't blame you.
We all have to go through that now, authentic. But in the assignment in Brightspace, the process of going through creating an assignment in Brightspace, right? You gotta give it a title. You have to put
Yeah,
right.
yes.
In the instructions, you're gonna paste a link that will take them into the agent.
Okay.
That's it.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, and the submissions are going to come in. And now, again, this is the way I'm doing it. You don't have to do the same way I'm doing it. The way I want to collect my responses is I want to see, this is my choice, but you can do something different. I would love to see this whole interaction, right? So when the student opens up the assignment, they're going to click copy then the complete interaction, and they paste this interaction that they have with the agent, which is now the submission or the deliverable, paste that into the Brightspace assignment, and that's what I'm going to see when I go to Quick Eval in Brightspace, right? Because we use Quick Eval in Brightspace to do the grading.
Yeah.
Yep. Real quick, let's move into example number 3 because now I'm way over time. But I really want to show you this one because I think this one is really interesting. So example number 3. Oh, I didn't even go through my slide, but so example 1 was an agent. Example 2 was a traditional writing assignment. Example 3 is, I think this is a fun project for your student. I think you enjoy this one. What I do here is when we get close to the midterm or the final, some professors like to do a midterm review or a final review, but you're painting the fence for your students, right? They'll let you paint the fence. They'll let you paint the entire fence if you allow yourself to do it. In this case, I want them to paint the fence. And what I mean by that analogy or that metaphor of painting the fence is usually when a midterm review comes up, you get in front of the classroom and you go through the entire midterm. What I'm challenging the student here is let's have them build a midterm review. Let's have the students build the midterm review. Let them paint the fence. And the tool that I use for this in this case, and you can use, and again, you can use any of these AI tools, but for this one, I use Notebook LM. Everyone's familiar with Notebook LM or have heard of it? Okay, so I saw Ted shaking his head, so real quick. So Notebook LM is a Google tool. You need to have a Google account. It is one of the most impressive tools, AI tools that you'll come across. You do have to have a Google account. It's free to use. They do have an upgraded pro version, but with the free version is more than enough. And so what we're going to do is we're going to ask the students to work either in groups or the entire class could build the midterm review. I mean, this is up to you. I leave it open to you to decide. We talked about building a knowledge base for our agent. Remember, we talked about this is the information we're going to feed it. We're going to reverse the table. We're going to switch it around. We're going to tell the students to build a knowledge base. With Notebook LM, they're called notebook, right? So here you would click create a new notebook. And from here, this is how students are going to upload, the work. What I did was I created a Google Doc, and what I did was like a wiki. Everyone remembers a wiki? You know what a wiki? It's basically like Wikipedia, right? It's like encyclopedia. And so what I did was I created a Google Doc, and we called it midterm review. I shared that document with all my students. I'm the owner of it. You're the professor. You own the Google Doc. You're sharing it with all your students. They all can edit the document. Now they're adding knowledge to this wiki, and that's building up the knowledge base, the brain.
That's
So
such an excellent idea, Jose. I mean, that's really excellent. Okay, yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
I'm glad, Parvana. No, it's okay. Jump in anytime because we need. I love the feedback. Let the students and build that brain, and the benefit or the incentive for them to do a good job is that the better the midterm review, the better results, right? Because we said we feed it vegetables is going to have you a smart brain. We feed it junk, we feed it candy. If you explain that to the students in that way, and some type of a metaphor, then the midterm the wiki is not going to be as helpful for you to review. Okay, let me take this another level. Let's take it to another level. Okay, students are building the knowledge base. It's a one to simplify. I'm using one document. They can all edit. As they're editing and adding their knowledge to that document, is being fed into this notebook. Now, this is where we can up the ante. If it's a biology course, someone earlier mentioned a biology course, or is it a math course? Whatever it is, the students can now interact with the wiki. This is special. Okay, so I can ask the wiki, okay, can you quiz me for the midterm review? Right? And so now the students are interacting with the wiki itself. Can you tell me, I can't remember who this painter in the Baroque, give me the names, give me the time periods, and so it becomes, they create the wiki, they learn from it, they interact. I think that would be a phenomenal way to do a midterm review or a final review. We
So,
get it.
Jose, you introduced few characters here, Notebook LM, then you said Google Docs,
Mhm.
then you said Wiki. Now, in between three, so could you just, as an algorithmic style, could you say which one should be step one, which should be step two, which should...
Yes. Yeah. Thank you for that. Yes. There's two tools, not three. The wiki is a term for the the document. I'm using the term as a wiki. It's like an encyclopedia. The students are building the wiki. That's what I'm referring to as the document. The two tools that I'm using for this assignment is Notebook LM, which is a Google product, and Google Doc for them to write and edit the wiki. So there's two documents, and then when you as a professor, you are creating the document or the file, and then you're giving it a name, midterm review. You're sharing it with all your students, giving them editing rights because you do want them to write, right? You want them to and they're working as a team. They got to work together. They got to collaborate, right? Because if I'm working on one topic and Ted is working on another and Pravana is working on another, we don't want to override, it's the same idea as a wiki, right? Wikipedia, right? Because you can go in and uh, correct each other. So now the students it's almost like a peer-to-peer assessment now I think of it, right? They're working together and they say, okay, well, over here, I don't know, this information is correct. And they work up, and then you also have to keep a close eye into it because sometimes, making sure that what they're putting in is what you want them to put in, right? So I'm only using two tools here, which is Google Doc and Notebook LM. You're feeding the Google Doc into the notebook. So this is where you go here. Most likely your Google Doc lives in your Google Drive. So you would click on the Google Drive, locate the Google Doc, ingest it into the notebook. That's all you have to do. Publish the notebook, share it with your students, let them go ahead and write their wikis. And then when the time comes, you're going to have to provide them, okay, because a lot of these students have never, I don't think anyone has seen this type of assignment. These are things that just come up in my mind from hearing our faculty members' needs. And so you have to explain to them now, once the wiki is populated, interact with it, encourage them to chat with it, because once the notebook is created, Notebook LM allows the student to ask the notebook itself questions. So now the students can now begin asking questions, and the citations are then linked to the Word doc, right? Because there's only one document in this case. Did that answer the question?
Jose, I have a question.
Sure. Go ahead.
So how does one make sure that the students don't come up with a nonsensical sort of exam or quizzes? Just a very easy thing that they could just give themselves an A, for instance.
Oh, Pravanna, you're referring to the notebook LM assignment, or you're referring to much more generic question about when students are
Well, I thought that Notebook LM is precisely for that, no? To arrange exams and whatnot.
um,
To have students create a review sheet, for instance.
yes. Yes, it's perfect for those type of things. Another use case, I'm starting to see more students do this, is when they're taking notes in the class, either on paper or on the computer, they have a notebook for every class they take, and then they're taking notes, and then they're feeding those notes into the knowledge base. And then they can study and interact with their notebooks that way. That's another phenomenal way to use Notebook LM. It could be used as journals, right? So now you can say journals. By the way, I do want to mention this. The same can be done in Copilot. Copilot also has a notebook. Let me show you real quick. Let me go back here. So now I'm back in Copilot. You can create notebooks. Where are they? Oh, no, this is the agent. So if I go to Copilot, I believe it's there. You can create notebooks there. Let me see if I can find it real quick. Um, let me go from here. Sorry. Uh, mm,
The top
Jose,
left corner.
oops. Thank you. Oh, there it is. Thank you. I could. That was Ted. Thank you,
Yes.
Ted. Thank you. So this is where Copilot will look for you when you log in through CUNY, and then you can chat. But I believe, where are the notebooks? I'm forgetting. Or is it over here? Sorry about that. It's here. I think it's no, these are agent. Of course, when I'm live, is always the pressure's on. I can't remember where the notebooks are. But the point I'm making is that Google has Notebook LM. Microsoft then came out with their own version of Notebook LM, so of their own notebook. So what there is the option to choose between Google and Microsoft. I will come back to where the notebooks are because right now I just can't remember because I'm feeling pressure with the little time we're over and I don't remember where the notebooks are. But just to know that you could create notebooks either here in Google and as well as Microsoft for that Notebook LM assignment. One thing I do want to comment before we end is that I'm a big fan. I always believe that there's a connection between writing on a piece of a pen and writing on a piece of paper to your brain. That I strongly believe. And so I fear, this is one thing I fear, that once you remove that activity of taking notes on a piece of paper and pen, there is, and it's studies behind it, there is a strong connection between taking that knowledge into, building those connections in the neurons in your brain. I don't know how this will affect note taking, but that's a side note. Anyway, uh, so those are three examples I wanted to share with you all because I didn't want to just come up here and just talk about this, I didn't want to be just theoretical and say, okay, we have to reimagine the assignments, we have to think about it, but not give you actual examples that actually work. So these things are doable. It can be done. It just we're in the very early stages of what's happening of the disruption of what's happening in education. Um, I've I've come to terms with myself to know that the policing game is tough, and I don't think policing, catch, hey, don't cheat, don't do this. I know they're doing it. Part one, part one talked about it, right? I showed you how a lot of these tools run invisibly. You know, we talked about having that hunch in your gut feeling that the student's vocabulary language is not up at this level, or these words that are being used. We talked about the baseline writing assignment as a fingerprint for your students. We talked about all this in part one. If you missed it, you can just go back and watch the video. So just to summarize and just kind of my final statement on this is just that eventually, as educators, we're going to have to make a decision. Are you going to go the route of policing the students? And that's a lot of wear and tear on, and carefully not accusing somebody of cheating because you don't want to accuse someone when your AI detector is telling you there's 30%, but it's a false positive, but then you went ahead and then now it's a great challenge and it becomes a snowball. Or reimagine the assessment, think about how can I get students to produce much more authentic responses. I put it out there. I put both scenarios for you to decide. At the end of the day, it's your course, it's your content. You decide how you teach, but I just wanted to present it from the two sides, from a neutral perspective, coming in from the neutral perspective on the two options that you have. And the AI guidelines covers a lot of, there was a rubric that we talked about in part one, and okay, do this, run it by the AI detector, run it by your baseline writing example, interview the student one-on-one, try to see the student understands what they wrote. If all those fails, then you report the student through an FAR form. We covered that in part one. Part two, we talked about the second option, right? Let's see how we can reimagine the assessment and try to get the much more authentic assessments using the technology itself. So I thought I provided a good position from the two perspectives, and it's up to you to decide. And I'll close there if anybody has any questions or comments.
Just one question, Jose. What's the advantage of using Notebook? Like if I'm letting students, giving them out a link for Google Doc, and they can always edit and add. So, and that could be a live document, and they have editing settings. So what's the advantage of linking it to integrating it with Notebook LM? Thank you, Jose.
All right, thank you for the question. It really depends on the assignment and your goals for that assignment, right? In this case, I wanted to do crowd surfing, crowd surf the assignment and have everyone work together and build this wiki. So in this case, what it's doing for me is that it's centralizing the assignment to one document. And we're building the assignment together, right? And for the benefit of all of us. A wiki benefits the entire class. So it depends your goals, what you're trying to do with your assignment. In this case, the tool is affording me the opportunity to create an assignment that promotes social learning. And it makes it easy for me to review the assignment because it's in one document. I can easily go over it without having to go open 20 to 30 individual documents. So that's what the Notebook LM the benefits of using Notebook LM in this type of assessment. But if it's another assignment, let's say, you have to give me an example of an assignment that you're looking at, and then but you have to evaluate the tools. Is it doing what you need it to do? And I'm very keen on the purposeful use of technology. I'm not going to use technology just because Pravana's using it or Ted is using it or other professors are using. I don't want anyone to feel peer pressure into using technology and overdoing it. So it has to be purposeful. And if there's no purpose, then you should not be using it.
Thank you, Jose.
Sure. No, thank you for the question.
Jose, can you please remind me of the term that you used to do the search to get to the agent? I didn't write it down. I cannot remember.
Sure. What I did was I opened a new tab. Let me just close this one because it's already there. But so I did was Copilot Studio,
Oh, Copilot Studio. Okay.
and it's the first one. You'll see it says Microsoft Copilot Studio.
Okay.
That's where you build your agents in Microsoft. Google's different because everything is all together. Microsoft, for whatever reason, they separated the studio from the regular Copilot.
So how do you get to Google? Like, because when I'm doing a search in Google, like Gemini will just pop up and give you the information.
Sure.
How do you do the search to Google?
Sure. What you can do is I have my Google account. I log in to my Google account, and in your Gmail, you click on this little icon that we call it the waffle icon, and then you get all the Google apps right here. And then you're gonna see, for example, Notebook LM is here. Gemini. You see Gemini?
Yes.
Click on Gemini, and you're in.
Oh, okay, good.
I have my whole history of, it keeps the history and everything, and then yeah, that's how you would do it. And then for the agents in Google, you have to go over here, explore gems.
Was that the same in the apps?
In the same app, because Google calls them gems for the agents. And then here you can see my, I created one for debate, for students to debate with the so, and then here you create new gem. These are templates. These are pre-made that you can use if you like, but you can click new gem. By the way, now that we're here, here's a really good tip. Everyone in this workshop should be visiting. I'll give you the link. Everyone here should be visiting Google Labs. This is if you want Christmas Christmas present for every day. Google Labs basically is Google's all the experimental tools that they have. And if you go to Google Lab, it's basically labs.google. In here, you can see all of the different, this is a new one, it's a mixed board. I'm thinking about using this one for an assignment that I'm thinking about ideation. So if you want your students to start thinking about an assignment, this is, it's in beta version, so it's not 100%, but they play around. And again, these are not guaranteed to last forever because sometimes Google will plug, they'll get rid of one of these tools. But this is where Notebook LM first appeared. It was such a big hit. And then from here, let me click View All. You can see these are all different tools. There's one for language. If anyone here is a language instructor, if you're teaching Spanish or you're teaching, Portuguese, there's one here that little language lessons. You can build little language lessons using generative AI. There's another one here that you can use to help you learn how to prompt and become a good prompter. I'm actually going to have a workshop too on prompting, so keep an eye out for that. But it's over here somewhere. Where is it? As you can see, there's a lot of these tools, right? So this is where I go to. This is my go-to to come up with ideas for new projects, assignments, and things of that nature. And so I like to go here and see what they have new and experiment. And feel free to experiment and play with it and try to break it. But there's a lot of good things here that you can use. For art history, they might have something like here, moving archives. Explore archival photography. I'm not sure, it might be something here for art history, but here for history class, you might find that useful for your class. This is a good one, learn your way. This could be a good use for students to learn a new topic. And students build their pathways through the material that you present them. So there is a lot of fun stuff here. I just encourage you to go in here and play with it. It's Google Labs or labs.google and take a look for yourself. There's a lot of fun stuff here to play with.